Hello, today I'm gonna do a quick status update on my fifth scale cars, what I currently have in my garage, and um, something about what I'm going to do with those cars the coming winter. I have currently only 3 fifth scale cars. And I used to have a few more. I've had a 5T, I've had a HBI Baja. Actually, I've had several Bahas, and I have also had several more MCDs. Currently, I have 2 MCD RR5. They are quite different though. The green one is my petrol car. It's a 29cc Senua with a Samba pipe, silenced of course. I have this car to run in the Swedish Large Scale Cup. I will do some competitions next year as well. I try to keep this car very basic, just to keep costs down, and also since it's a two-wheel drive conversion, it doesn't need a lot of fancy options to stay intact, since it's not as fast or as aggressive driving style as the four-wheel drive cars. So it's a standard 29cc. It's the standard wheelbase, nothing fancy. It's a diff locker, and of course no front drive shaft, no front brakes, only single servo. And there's my Milaps transponder, single servo, standard size to the rear brakes, and of course a tuned pipe that bleeds exhaust down here. Okay. The only real mod I have on this car is I have the short course extenders, so the car is 2 centimeters wider, which is allowed in those competitions. Okay. So this is a basic car. I kind of only run this on the competitions to keep it in good shape. When I go to track days, I mostly run this car. This is also an MCD. This is the long wheelbase version, you can see that. It's 61 centimeters wheelbase, so it's the same length as a low C5T. It also has those extenders, so it's slightly wider than stock, and it has the short course front and rear towers. Since this car started its life as a W5 short course that I have buggy converted. This is a brushless car, and this is a lot more options. This is by far my most expensive RC I've had. I just remove the body. It's probably double the cost of the Dragon Hammer. I have the same 300 amp ESC. I have a Leopard V2 motor, 700 kV. It's smaller than the Dragon Hammer motor, but it's larger than most brushless fifth scale motors. It's 114 long, I think, by 58 diameter, 12S capable, and I've actually run this on 12S. And the top speed is insane, but it's not drivable on track. So since this is a track car, I run it on 8S only, kind of, and it's still faster than it needs. Here I run a dual servo setup. I have a lot of this aircraft alloy. I used to run mechanical brakes, but not anymore. Here I have the battery hold trays. This is a 3D printed one for 2 4S batteries, and also one more 4S here and one more here for 4 4S batteries. Basically the same setup as I have on the Dragon Hammer. Yeah, this has most of the alloy upgrades, and so this car I will do nothing with this winter since it already kind of has everything. By the way, if you wonder about that sound, annoying sound, it's the rabbit drinking. We can do that later. Sorry. You can drink later. I think this view is kind of funny. Just look at the ride height between the Dragon Hammer and the MCD. Note that they are the same length, actually. It's not that big of a difference in width either, but the height difference is staggering. Actually, the MCD I've really tried to get as low center of gravity as possible by moving all the battery trays down on the chassis. Also here, also moved it rearwards from the initial conversion kit to get better weight bias and so on. So I won't do so much more on this car since there are only small gains to be made, I think, unless someone comes up with a sensor system that is really good or something. Okay, and the Dragon Hammer, I've already talked a lot about that. For that car I will put on some LED lights, and I will also try some aftermarket sway bars for the Losi 5T, since I got a tip that 5T sway bars should work. So I'm excited to try that. I'm going to a bash meeting in a few weeks, so I hope I can have that done already by then. Okay, so that's my 350 cars. Here is, by the way, from the Swedish large scale cup this year. I actually won twice this season. I had kind of a bit of luck the first one when I was still running my Baja, and the last one I won. The track suited this car really well. It's a tricky one to drive though, since this car has no real rear weight bias. It's actually too light on the rear wheels to have any good traction, but it's, on the other hand, it's a lot better in the corners than the Bajas, so you have to compensate it that way. Okay. So for this season, it's no major upgrades this winter, and that's a bit because I need to do something with my other cars. For example, my 8-skill Pruggy. This has been my workhorse for many seasons. Now I have had it for 4 years, and all the time used this when my other cars break down, and done basically no real maintenance on it. So this car is very, very run down. The chassis is bent. You see this, it's a lot of play in everything. So I'm starting to think this is not economical to repair, since I will need to replace everything kind of. So I'm looking for a replacement when I go to these track days and so on. So I'm actually considering a new 6th scale or something, maybe Super Rock Ray or Super Baja Ray or something for this winter. But I'm a bit uncertain about the durability of those cars, so maybe someone here can help me out with that. Otherwise I will maybe just replace this with something like a Kraton or something. That's probably a smarter idea, but it's fun to try out some cars that almost no one here in Sweden has. I think the Rock Ray, I have not heard of a single one here yet, so that will be nice. I'm actually surprised no one that I know of have bought a Dragon Hammer yet either. I only know of 2 of them in Sweden actually, and that's not a lot considering how many people are running their low season Bahas and so on, and they are kind of the same price range, so yeah. And last I'm gonna talk a bit about my transmitters. I run those 2. This is my primary transmitter. It's a Futaba T7PX, 7 channel. I never use 7 channels, but it has a lot of nice functions and setups and so on. It's proven quite useful when you have things like brake bias and extra channels for the air pressure horn I was running earlier this year in the Dragon Hammer, for instance, and I will use it again for the LED lights. I would use the 3rd channel for that, and maybe the 4th for that air horn again if I use that ever again. And then I have my backup transmitter. It's a cheaper Futaba, but it's still enough to continue running the cars. I got this after my transmitter got soaked in a rain shower on competition last year when I was running the 8-skill buggy. Yeah, well, I think that's it for today, guys. I will post some more photos and videos when I go to the track day here in 2 or 3 weeks. I hope the Dragon Hammer has the newest updates by then. Bye.